Now in order to consider log number 406 by Ms. Cheney. And for what purpose does the gentlewoman seek recognition?
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk.
Clerk will distribute the amendment. Without objection, will dispense with the reading, and the gentlelady is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And thanks very much to Chairman Cooper and to Ranking Member Turner. Unfortunately, we were, as the Ranking Member said, unable to reach a bipartisan agreement on the Strategic Forces Subcommittee mark, and that was indeed a sad day for us on that subcommittee. My amendment, Mr. Chairman, would restore the authority of the Department of Defense to deploy the low-yield variant of the SLBM, the W76-2 warhead. Our adversaries are developing and deploying low-yield nuclear weapons, and the credibility of our deterrence requires that the United States have a proportional response available to discourage any potentially devastating miscalculation. Low-yield weapons are critical to our security because they give us a credible deterrent. Russia's confidence that if they were to strike us, we would have the capability and the will to respond in a proportional manner makes a strike by the Russians less likely, not more likely. Mr. Chairman, this is why the 2018 Nuclear Posture Review included the requirement that the United States develop and deploy the low-yield submarine-launched ballistic missile as soon as possible. The NPR highlighted how critical this capability is to close the deterrence gap and provide credible response options to Russia's escalate to de-escalate doctrine. These warheads and missiles are already produced. NNSA did an impressive job in FY19 with little to no additional cost or impact on other programs. Prohibiting the deployment of the W76-2 wastes millions of dollars that the NNSA and DoD have already spent working to produce these weapons. Additionally, putting a halt to this program incurs several million more dollars worth of lost costs due to contract obligations. Mr. Chairman, my amendment is also directly in support of our NATO partners in Europe, something I know my colleagues on this committee say they are committed to. It is entirely possible that Russia's threat with their low-yield weapons would be against NATO conventional forces, not against the sovereign United States alone. Therefore, it would be inappropriate and destabilizing if we were not to have an appropriate response, because our allies would then begin to feel they needed to look elsewhere for assurances. Some of our colleagues on this committee have argued that low-yield weapons are destabilizing, despite the fact that we have had these weapons in our arsenal since 1945. What's destabilizing is the chairman's remarks on March 12, 2019, and I quote, "If the Russians launch a nuclear weapon at us and we don't have anything but a bigger nuclear weapon, well then we launch the bigger nuclear weapon. That's what we do." Close quote. That is brazen, it's irresponsible, it's completely inappropriate. Low-yield nuclear weapons are a crucial part of our deterrent capability. Vice Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Paul Selva, said, quote, "A proportional reaction to an enemy's attack is actually a righteous and reasonable thing to do. If all you have is large-yield weapons and you're trying to answer a low-yield attack, answering that with a conventional weapon is likely not going to have a deterrent value." Mr. Chairman, my amendment would simply say that we are not going to prohibit the deployment of these weapons that are crucial to our nation's security. I therefore urge my colleagues to adopt this amendment so that we can continue in a manner in which we provide for the defense of the nation in a bipartisan way as we have for so many years on this committee. And with that, I yield back.